the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100 this week. We will have a shorter week tomorrow, so Monday will be a half day. Obviously, Tuesday, July 4th, we will be off. Salute to the troops. And we do love America here. So that's kind of the setup for this week. We do have this expectation to shorter weeks of a little bit more chop, not a lot of volume or volatility, but there were some big things that happened, at the end of Friday, and there are some important things happening this week. I will say that. So when you look at some of the data polls that will be happening this week, as far as news is concerned, you'll have PMI data, I believe Wednesday, possibly Tuesday. It's Wednesday or Tuesday. I can't remember. And then you have ISM manufacturing on Thursday. Those are going to be your biggest things, some unemployment numbers, but again, those come out every week. So those are your biggest polls, biggest things to watch. Those will greatly affect the Dow. Okay, the Dow is going to be the number one thing impacted by those. Now, obviously, going into this week, we have Tesla coming out with their delivery numbers, and they did beat, so that's also worth considering. If you're interested in the name like that, we'll go into that here in a second. Now, the biggest talk as we look at the past few days and weeks is the Nasdaq, specifically what's happening and how we're breaking most of these levels. Now, the big level we were watching was around 15.25, and this goes even further back, but I just want to bring this up. I had kind of delete stuff for a post for Twitter, but you can see you're breaking up, trying to get a little bit of retest and pushing back up, but you're back into highs here. Specifically, you go into something like ES, you're getting more of an answer. Okay, ES, you see we pushed into a local higher high, did get rejected, and we're pushing back down. Now, it's worth mentioning you're finally getting that test of 4,500. This is that big level. And the really big level that I'm watching, if you go back to the weekly, is around 4,550. In my opinion, this was the line in the sand, and this is the area that I think all eyes have to be on. If we start to mount this area, I do believe all-time highs are coming pretty quickly. Just going to say. Now, before we go into any more content, because we have a lot to cover today, I want to go over it pretty quick. I have to ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Every single day I make videos for you, so you are prepared, as you can see. And I give you my transparent opinion on how I see the market moving, win, lose, draw. That's what you're going to get here. It's also worth mentioning today is Sunday, so it is the newsletter day. Make sure you are subscribed. You get to see all the levels we're watching. I recommend having this just on your desk when you're trading, so you can just make sure you're going over key levels. This is absolutely free. Nothing. This is all paid for by me out of pocket. Okay, so understand that this is free. There's nothing that I'm getting paid to do here. So understand that. Again, you have everything that's going to be happening, our favorite stocks, what to expect on those names as they're breaking out as well. And then if you're interested in trading with us, getting involved with traders like yourself every single day, the Discord link is down below. But I don't recommend this to newer traders, and don't take this as a signal service. That's not what this is. You'll see what we're trading and how we're trading, but more importantly, you're going to understand why we're trading, why we're sitting on our hands, why we're sitting in cash, and the process to becoming a winning trader. If you think you're going to just get involved and you're just going to automatically follow someone trades and be a winner, that is not what this is. People continually join expecting this signal service, and they are taken by surprise that they have to do work, they have to educate themselves, they have to put in time as well. If you don't want to put in time, you don't want to put in work, do not join. I'm going to tell you that right now. The free content can do just as much for you, but I'm telling you, if you want to put in work, I think the Discord is for you. Consider joining. So again, ES is what we're looking at. And ES, it's a horse. Look at the weekly in particular, right? This is what had me the most excited, was this weekly candle that printed. Very, very strong engulfing candle that formed out there. Nasdaq, very strong candle that's forming here. Going into Dow, the list will go on and on. Be very strong across the board. So I believe a decent PMI, decent ISM manufacturing, Dow will continue and most likely get the test of this range we've been looking for around 35.4, 35.5. That's the next big level here on Dow. Now, the thing I do want to talk about, and the thing that we've been talking about for a few days and weeks, has been the rotation of money. So specifically into something like Russell. So when we see like the Nasdaq in particular lagging, the Russell has maintained strength. But I do want to say something. We've talked a lot about specifically here on like the daily, how you were trading in this range, and you can see how you pushed above, you retested, you're pushing back up. Very strong. But if you go out to something like the weekly, I want to say you haven't gotten a breakout on the weekly yet. Like we need to understand this. We've clearly been trading in this range. This is just where we've been kind of participating at. Now, what I will say is this swing low right there has been pretty important and pretty big. You can see double bottom. Then obviously we started pushing down. Now we're stuck. We're over it a little bit here. But again, I want to see us start to push above, start breaking 2,000 on the Russell. And that's where things will really start to pick up. And we've seen the reaction that we've gotten on the Nasdaq and from big tech names when those, the Russell does start to pick up. So these are all things we need to be taking into consideration and need to be watching. Okay. Now, again, I don't want to spend a bulk of the video going over futures. We did a lot of it on Friday, and I kind of gave you the gist of everything I'm watching for this week. Now, obviously, if we start dropping, then I'm going to be watching most of those same key levels, and those key levels will be mentioned in the newsletter. So there's no reason for me to hammer those home. Now, I'm going over some big names I'm liking, and I did a request yesterday on Twitter. So if you go to my Twitter, I do this kind of often now. All you do is when I start to post this, you basically it's free reign for anyone to ask whatever they want. Okay. As you can see, actually just go over to notifications, scroll down. We'll see. I went over a chart session. Anyone that wanted to ask a question, all you do is follow the rules, retweet, and then you just say what chart you want to, and I'll go over. Now, a few of the names I saw consistently popping up: NVIDIA and semiconductors. A lot of people want to short NVIDIA, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's a few companies I think are really there's some companies out there that I think are just bold-faced stupid to short right now. Really dumb. I get it. NVIDIA, you've pushed up like crazy. You have a illiquidity underneath 375. If you broke 375, we could talk. We could talk about going short. And this is the weekly chart, so you know it's not the 1 minute. This is the weekly chart. And what's happening though, and this is the problem with social media, and why I want to cover these. People like to talk about things they don't really understand, and especially with fundamentals. And when you chart, and I say this is my most frequently said thing: stop using fundamentals if you don't understand them. If you're trying to trade based on fundamentals and you don't have a good foundation in understanding why stocks move based on them, or your time frame is short term and you're trying to use fundamentals to trade short term, there's probably a really big issue and you're going to lose money. Most of the people that I see that try to trade these short term trades based on fundamentals get torched, and you're going to notice a lot of these people on social media get torched, but they won't tell you that. So all the people that have been saying short Nvidia, obviously they've been getting just destroyed, absolutely destroyed, unless you're trading a 5-minute time frame, which is fine, right? But Nvidia continues to be one of the number one names, specifically why their earnings, and they even said, even with the China ban that could happen with the CHIPS Act, they said that it does not impact or influence their earnings statement or expectations moving forward. So even though they doubled their expectations or up by 50% quarter over quarter, year over year, it's almost double. But quarter over quarter up 50% expectations, that isn't even affected by that chip ban. So what's going to happen if that chip ban doesn't go into place? Just take a second and think about that. That's more growth opportunity for them. So again, this is one of those areas that is just in a hyper growth stage, and it's in a giant evolution in the chip space right now. You're seeing money being flowing in from every single direction. So chip names, I wouldn't really be considering short. Now, obviously, AMD is one of my favorites. We started holding back above 110, then 112, 111, and now you're holding above almost 114 to end the week. Fantastic. You go to something like the weekly candle here as well. In my opinion, it's one of those famous AMD bull flags. You've seen this time and time and time again. And again, it's not really a surprise here. AMD, it always moves slow. And then once you get that big breakout, you start to move really good. So AMD, I like it dated, has been performing very well. One of my favorite names. If I'm going chips, I'm going AMD personally right now. Next up, Meta. I've been talking about these guys for a while, and they've been going on a straight, trend to the upside. Now, the biggest thing I'll say here is that you did start to fill this gap. Okay, we need to understand that. Gap did fill 289. Understand it. But I'm going to tell you right now, you start holding over 289 too, I think there's a high possibility you start pushing in quickly to 300 and even higher, because it's still pretty illiquid. You can go look at the volume gaps as well in the VPVR. I still really do like Meta. It's also worth mentioning it is a clear ascending triangle. There's no way around it. This wants to break up. Sellers cannot push you down. You are making higher lows across the board. 278 is a brick wall. It's looking like Warren Sapp on the 1 yard line. Absolutely beautiful what you're seeing right here. So again, Meta, I'm liking it. Confirmations if you get to the upside. If you did not get the entry that I posted on Twitter, I posted this a few days ago. You can go check it out. But again, that's what we're liking right there. Next up, Google. Google's definitely a lagger here. It definitely had my concerns. But you did hold support. If you go to something like the 2-4 hour, you can see the demand that you had right here, clearly bouncing out of it. I'm liking it so far. I don't think you're out of the woodworks here. I think there's still maybe a little bit more room for downside, possibly. It's really steep, the bear flag, but I will say I'm not being biased. I'm still looking at all expectations and anything that can happen here. But if we get some continued breakout across the board, I do believe XLK and some of these tech names will start to get more upside opportunity. And if they start to break highs, I think Google will be one of the leaders in this name as well. But it's worth mentioning, if you're looking at the market for downside, I want you to ask yourself this question. Can you really be bearish when the top stocks in the entire market are at 52 or at all-time highs? Apple broke 183. Everyone was saying go short. You mounted it. You pushed into 193. Probably going to go to 200 here. Microsoft, right? Very similar chart to Apple in my opinion. You broke all-time highs. You came back down. Now you're trying to push back up. These names are all at highs. Nvidia, again, I just covered that one. But like I can go on and on and on. The biggest names in the market continue to push into new highs. Can you really be that bearish? Do you want to be the first one to go short, or do you want to catch the retest? Do you want to be the first one to buy? Because just remember, the people that are the first to the market hold the most risk. So what's the name of the game as a day trader, as a scalper? The name of the game is to reduce my risk across the board. Remember that. Reduce my risk across the board. If you're a day trader, if you're a swing trader long term, then yeah, you're going to open yourself up to risk. And you're going to be having stock and having daily positions. Those are just safer though. But when you're going 2-3 weeks out, you need to understand your risk is growing exponentially every single day, every single hour. Your risk is going up and up and up. The shorter dated these contracts are. So again, I think it's just something people need to consider, be careful of. Kind of a red flag for me, but yeah, I would try to be careful here. Another big name is going to be Home Depot. When I go to something like Dow, I'm really liking it. Today I'm going over like just a lot of stocks. You got the breakup. We filled that gap into 314. I did mention Home Depot in Discord as well, and I mentioned it on Twitter. So again, it was there for free. You filled the gap into 313. You got a little bit of a push, and you push back down. But you mounted previous highs here, and you're pushing up. It's also worth mentioning on the daily. Go to the indicator. We're going to bring up the daily 200, or is it the 200? It's a 200 SMA. Is you're bouncing and holding, and you're making a higher high here. Home Depot, if PMI data and the Dow continues up, I think Home Depot is one of my favorite names to keep the trend flowing to the upside. If you want a riskier name in the same sector, I think Lowe's is also very interesting, and you're getting the clear breakout here on something like the daily, which again, I like the higher time frames because they give you a really good idea of confirmation. And you can see here around 220, 221. And in my opinion, you're pretty illiquid all the way up almost into 240, 236. But you're breaking out of this range, pushing up. Mention this as well if you wanted to risk your name in the same sector and maybe make some quicker money if you want shorter dated positions. Again, Lowe's looks good based on home sales, and I think home sales will continue to do good and to the end of at least summer, most likely, maybe even into September, give or take. So Home Depot, Lowe's looking really strong. Continuation looks highly, highly, highly likely. Across the board, what else? Amazon, you're coming clearly into targets. You broke the ascending triangle. You have the 200 SMA as well. I'd be really careful. 200 weekly SMA right there. Be careful. You break above that, you have a lot more room to the upside, but that's the big resistance there. I would not start to get crazy there. Be careful, be careful, be careful. But it still looks really good. I'm going to tell you right now. But that's the big level. I've kind of gotten out of a lot of my Amazon that I've had for data positions. Next up is Adobe. Again, I'm going through a laundry list of names here. Adobe, really interesting. A lot of people keep talking about it. You're slowly grinding and making higher lows. You want to see if you can start breaking over 495 and getting back into the upside. You start breaking over 495, I think you have upside potential into the 520s. Once again, keep it on your radar as well. I do like a lot of these tech names, as you're going to see. CRM, Jay started loading into a position. His is dated, so I will say that. But CRM still looks really, really good. I want you to take into consideration where you're grinding and where you're holding over right now. If you look at this chart, okay, just bear with me. If you look at this chart, you need to understand there are a few things that are downright just phenomenal here. You're above your 200 daily moving average on the daily, 200 moving average on the weekly, you're grinding above, and you're making these higher lows. The cloud sector as a whole is one of those areas in the market that I believe has a lot of potential upside, specifically dated. These cloud names, they also had a massive run during COVID when the market was kind of like euphoric. But I believe cloud names are like the one tier under semiconductors when it comes to AI. These cloud names will directly benefit off this, and I don't think they've even started implementing a lot of the capabilities they can use. We saw a company like Snow mention some of this, last week, and we started to see immediately the effects of it. You shot up crazy. You had a massive dip from those earnings. You caught this massive move back up. You dipped back down to 168, and you had the AI news. You started to break above. If Snow can start holding above 185, you're going to get that clear breakup back to the upside. But when you look at more and more of these cloud names, you're realizing that they're stuck, in this range at lows, right? So I think cloud names have, if you're a value investor for dated positions, dated in the money calls, dated just buying stock, these have value. A few weeks ago, if you remember, I mentioned QCOM. We started buying down at 106 all the way down to 102. I mean, paid off huge. I'm still holding my shares, but over almost up 20% at highs locally. Again, love the name. It was easy value. When I look at cloud names, in my opinion, easy value. I like Snow, I like CRM, I like Crowd. Those are all great names out there, and I don't think you can really go wrong in the long term with them. I mean, CRM has bounced quite a bit, but again, I still like these. They're really nice. Those are the big sectors I'm liking. If you have questions, comment down below. More content will be coming out every single day. Also posted a new educational video on my second channel, so go check it out. Have a good one, traders. See you tomorrow.